Welcome to Daily Joy, where every movie is a story waiting to be relived. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe and like, also a comment would be much appreciated. Be aware that this video contains spoilers, so proceed with caution. On the Russian coast, a dark night unfolds as Oleg assists a group of criminals in stealing 1 ton of caviar aboard a small boat. The hired sailor opposes the idea, reminding him that his boat can only transport 600 kilograms, and remains unmoved even when Oleg offers him additional money. This isn't sufficient for Oleg to surrender. However, he fakes calling his wife but truly chats with the criminal and tells him to claim the cargo is 600 kilos so the sailor will accept it. The trick works, and Oleg gets his ton of caviar loaded on the boat, but they are unable to travel too far. The boat and the cargo gradually sink, and the men have no choice but to swim to the land. When the sailor insists on payment for the damage to his boat, Oleg hands over his new and modern car, leaving him with the sailor's old ugly vehicle and a debt of 1 million to the smugglers. The following day, Oleg visits his girlfriend Sveta at the bank where she works to request a loan, but she is unable to provide it because he hasn't completed the payments on the one he has already taken. Desiring to assist, Sveta presents an alternative solution. They might seek help from her family, as they possess a house. Oleg isn't enthusiastic about this idea, as he can't tolerate Sveta's family and would prefer not to encounter them again, but he's left with no alternatives. They drive to her house, where the whole family lives together. There's Sveta's father, Boris, who enjoys singing strange songs and hasn't left the house in 5 years because he's a wanted man, her grandfather Pavel, who desires to be dead already, her sister Rita, who works as an accountant at the theater but dreams of being a performer, her brother Tolik, who aspires to join the army but can't because of his asthma and enjoys training dogs, and her sister Sasha, a young girl who constantly daydreams about becoming a grown woman and has a crush on Sveta's boyfriend. Oleg waits to talk to Boris about his money problem until he's finished singing. When Boris finally hears what he has to say, he panics, believing selling the house would be similar to selling his family into slavery. Oleg attempts to clarify to them that no one will suffer any loss, he simply requires a guarantor's letter. However, it proves pointless. Boris' response remains a firm no. Out of nowhere, their argument is cut short as a meteorite crashes through the roof, landing squarely in the middle of the house and striking Pavel. Initially, the family rushes outside, believing they might be under attack. But once they spot a meteorite shower in the sky, they realize what's happening and return indoors to check on their grandfather. After taking him to bed, Oleg and the siblings begin digging to extract the meteorite for sale, but gradually, the siblings fall asleep, leaving Oleg to dig alone. He doesn't finish until morning, and when he emerges from the hole, he discovers Pavel calling him from bed to inform him he's on the edge of death. Oleg wants to call an ambulance, but Pavel insists on not doing so. He's lived long enough and wants to go from this world in peace. Before passing away, he gives Oleg one final message to convey to his family: they can all go to hell. After checking Pavel's pulse to ensure it's real, Oleg rushes to Sveta to share the news, but she's deeply asleep and won't notice. Oleg falls asleep next to her, and when Tolik arrives later to show him something, Sveta is missing. Oleg follows Tolik to the living room and discovers the meteorite has changed into a peculiar liquid. Sasha has acquired super strength, and Rita has the ability to fly. Sveta appears a moment later, with half her body invisible, and Pavel suddenly joins them too, alive and well. But when Rita can't control her new ability and flies away through the hole in the roof, she quickly falls to the ground, and Pavel passes away again as Sveta becomes fully visible. Once they assist Rita back inside and secure her so she can't float away again, prompting Pavel to wake up, they understand that the meteorite put on them extraordinary abilities. Sveta believes they need to contact the authorities, and the moment she exits the room, Pavel dies once more and Rita ceases to float. It appears these unique abilities function only when they are united. They visit a doctor to inquire about it, but the doctor informs them they're healthy and there is nothing wrong with their bodies. The interrupting effect they experience when they separate must simply be part of how their powers function. Later during dinner, they discuss what to do with these powers. Rita wants to perform, but Pavel thinks people would try experiments on them if they knew. As Tolik feeds his dogs and realizes he can understand them now, Oleg suggests to Boris that the family should appear on TV and earn money from it, but Boris declines to let his family be exploited in that way. As they settle down for the night, Oleg inquires about the money they have in the bank, while Sveta contemplates the possibility of having invisible children. The following morning, Pavel attempts to hang himself, but it's futile. As long as he is with his family, he will remain alive. Boris realizes his power is teleportation when he heads to the bathroom and strains too much to relieve himself and concludes the family requires a little vacation in order to handle this. The group heads to a lake to fish, and while Boris learns to manage his power, Oleg shares with everyone the plan he's devised. They should collaborate to rob a bank. With Sveta being unseen, she just needs to go in and then walk out with the bag of money while everyone waits in the car nearby so she doesn't lose her power. Rita, Tolik, and Sasha are in, but Boris keeps rejecting the idea, even stating he doesn't mind if Oleg leaves and they can no longer use their powers. Furious, Oleg jumps into the car, and Sveta trails him after instructing his family to place Pavel's body in the basement until their return. On the road, Oleg attempts to convince Sveta that his plan is a good idea, but they're abruptly forced to pull over by another car. It's the criminals who want their money. Oleg informs them he could have it in a month, but they can't accept that. He'll pay them in a week, or they will sell body parts in the Chinese black market. After the criminals leave, Sveta finally realizes that Oleg's debt isn't only about the money, it also endangers his life, so she agrees to help him. The next day, the couple takes Boris to see a fantastic new house that they might buy if they stick to the plan. Boris doesn't believe he requires a new house. However, Sveta ultimately informs him that the family is tired of the old, ugly house, and they are going to move anywhere with a working toilet. Boris still refuses, but when Sveta starts crying and points out she's asking for his help for the first time in her life and he won't listen to his daughter, Boris ultimately gives up and agrees to rob the bank. After discussing the details of the plan, the family celebrates the new life they'll have, and Sasha constantly interrupts Oleg and Sveta when they attempt to have some private time together. The following morning, she even applies some makeup to impress him. Oleg is surprised when suddenly all the family members begin laying down conditions if he wants them to cooperate. Pavel insists on being cremated after the robbery is completed, Rita desires to perform in front of an audience, and Sasha hopes to go on a date with him. Oleg believes they're demanding too much and declines to collaborate, but Boris disciplines him and states that if he wants to be part of the family, then he must assist them in return or the deal is finished, leaving Oleg with no option but to meet everyone's expectations. After visiting the theater where Rita works and scheduling her show, Oleg finally discovers his power while in bed with Sveta. He can pour water out of his finger, which Sveta notes is useful for watering the plants. The next morning, Sasha accompanies the couple as they go to check out the bank that will be their target. It's not the one she works at, allowing them to stay clear of suspicion. As they discuss the details, Sasha wonders what would happen if Sveta was caught and sent to jail, asking who would take care of Oleg. With a playful spirit, Sveta engages and assures her she can do it. Upon returning home, they discover Tolik has shaved his head since he's finally been accepted into the army, indicating he won't be available to rob the bank. Boris feels regret over losing his son, while Oleg remains preoccupied with the plan. He reaches out to his contacts and manages to get the army to communicate with Tolik, informing him that it was all a mistake. Tolik is clearly furious and upset about this turn of events, while Boris doesn't hide how pleased he is that the army has, in his view, seen the light. Oleg reassures Tolik, saying that once they rob the bank, he can reach out to some contacts he has and get him into the army, earning Tolik's trust as he embraces him. Next, they visit a funeral home to make the arrangements for Pavel's cremation. The employee hands them a piece of paper that Pavel can attach to his chest so when the police discover him dead, they'll understand to take him there. Afterward, Oleg takes Sasha out for lunch at a fancy restaurant while the family watches them from a distance and Sveta quietly sits next to them to keep an eye on her sister. Sasha wants Oleg to take her with him after the robbery because she hates her family, but before Oleg can turn her down, they're interrupted by the criminals, who are also eating there. They approach to interrogate Oleg, and when Sasha realizes they're bad guys, she stands up and doesn't hesitate to beat them up. The entire family begins to flee to escape trouble, leading Sasha to lose her super strength and ultimately abandon the criminals too. Later, the family enjoys the night listening to Tolik's dog sing the national anthem. The next day, it's finally time to carry out the plan. Oleg parks the car across the street under the sun, since the shadowed alley Boris indicates has a no parking sign. As she can only make her body invisible but not her clothes. Alright, let's hit pause. Before we move on, I need you to hit like and subscribe. No, seriously, I'm not going anywhere until you do. Done? Let's go. Sveta removes them before entering the bank, invisible and naked, alongside Oleg. She follows the employees to gather all the passwords and safe codes while Oleg makes a picture of the floor map in case they need to make a getaway. Meanwhile, Boris is exhausted of the sun and decides to change the car position to the little alley for fresher air. This is indeed a problem. That area is just for the bank's armored truck to park, and when one of them arrives, they request the family to move away. Boris refuses because it would cause Sveta to become visible, so seeing they have no other option, the guards use their own truck to push the car away. As Sveta stands in front of an employee and a client in shock, the family contacts Oleg, who quickly comes outside to assist them in moving Pavel's body to the front of the bank, allowing everyone to be closer to Sveta once again. She quickly regains her powers and vanishes, leaving the two men who witnessed her to believe they were imagining things. The family prepares to leave but gets stopped by the police, who simply wish to check on them. Boris, however, believes he's a wanted man and teleports away, unexpectedly appearing inside the cop's truck and getting arrested for it. Hours later, Oleg gets him out after losing another car as payment, and when they arrive home, he tells the family that Boris isn't wanted after all and it was all his imagination. Angry, he shouts at everyone for their misbehavior and demands they promise there will be no more arguments or misuse of their powers. The following day, they still have to take Rita to the theater, as it was part of the agreement. When it's her turn to perform, she notices a large crowd, including familiar faces, and experiences anxiety on the stage. Rita rushes out of the theater, unwilling to continue performing, and when Oleg follows her, he encounters the criminals, who drag him to the stage and toss him around while hitting him, turning him into the newest show of the day. When they're finally done and let him go, Oleg is filled with anger and hurt, insulting the entire family for the failures they keep facing, calling them lazy, selfish fools, capable of using the best technology in the world to simply scratch their rears. Oleg tries to separate himself from them, wishing to have nothing more to do with them, but Boris comes up with a plan and chooses to kidnap him. As night drops, the family returns to the bank, prepared to execute the heist. As Pavel distracts some drunk men who are hanging out nearby by drinking fuel and lighting his breath on fire, the rest of the family covers their faces and prepares to strike. Sasha pushes a truck in front of the street so they can hide what they're doing, then she pulls a chain Rita has placed on the window, creating an opening in the wall. Boris teleports inside, and Sasha throws Sveta into the hole before Rita picks her up and flies her there with the others. Then, Sveta uses the codes she discovered to disable the alarm, and Sasha effortlessly picks up the safe and tosses it out onto the street. As the family begins taking the money out and throwing it in the car, the police show up, but Tolik keeps them occupied by sending the dogs after them. Taking all the money they can, they escape with Pavel, who leaves a fire behind as he flees. The sun has risen by the time they move far away from the bank to stop and celebrate. Pavel seizes that moment to remind them of the final part of the deal and requests that they leave him behind so he can finally die. After everyone says their goodbyes to him, the family drives away, but they become distressed when they see Pavel's body fall dead and come back to assist him. Pavel refuses to accept this and shouts at them, reminding them this is what he desires. Boris interrupts, suggesting they should live together as a happy family, but Oleg points out that they can't stay since the plan they executed wasn't as smooth as intended and the police will catch up with them eventually. Additionally, he and Sveta have already arranged to travel to Thailand, Tolik will be departing for Moscow, and Sasha with Rita are willing to visit Brazil. The girls want Boris to go with them, but he doesn't have time to respond because Pavel tells them he's called the police so they can find his soon-to-be dead body, so the family leaves for good this time. Seeing her grandfather die deeply upsets Sveta, who declines to take the money when Oleg begins to split it some hours later, insisting they should return it. Oleg declines, so Sveta kicks him out of the car, stating she no longer wants to be with him. Since the family hasn't changed after all, Oleg leaves and takes care of his business. He gives the criminals what he owed them, then hides the rest of the money by taping them to his body beneath his clothes. As he heads to the airport, prepared to depart the country, he notices on the news that the family has been taken into custody for attempting to retrieve Pavel's body from the funeral home. Initially, he makes every effort to ignore it, but as soon as he gets on the plane, he can no longer handle the guilt and goes back to town to assist them. His first stop is the funeral home, where he attempts to bribe the employee to return the body to him. Given that there are numerous individuals willing to acquire Pavel, the man demands 1 million and refuses to accept any of the smaller amounts Oleg attempts to negotiate with. Since he has no other choice, Oleg pays all the money he has left and takes Pavel with him to the court where the family is being put on trial. Once they enter, everyone regains their powers, and chaos erupts. Boris teleports out of the cage, and while he and Pavel start beating people up, Sasha breaks the cage to let her siblings out. Together they take down various officers while the rest of the people flee, and now they're all back together. Boris admits that this kind of wild plan officially makes Oleg part of the family. Waiting outside for them, there's a group of armed cops, whom Rita distracts by flying above them, pretending to be a divine apparition. This provides them sufficient time to steal a car and drive away, but the police quickly regain their focus and begin pursuing them through the city. Boris teleports inside of one of the police cars to make them drive away. Sasha pushes others with her extraordinary power, and when they accidentally drive through a farm stand and the mirror gets dirty, Oleg cleans it with the water he pours from his finger. Sasha applies her strength once more to assist the car in making a sudden turn, resulting in all the police vehicles colliding with one another, except for one. They finally lose it when Rita stands up and pushes up the car as she flies up, making the car float away with her. Eventually, the family encounters the criminals and compensates them for hiding them in one of the containers they have, allowing them to flee to Thailand without being noticed. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like, share and subscribe button to my channel to see more videos like this.